Over to you, Amanda.
Thank you, Millie. Welcome back and welcome to our next session, entitled Tools for Creating Better Creative Workflows. Now, this session will expand on my previous presentation and will also build by providing even more wisdom to the tools that help create better workflows. Now, if you're looking for Adobe, please join track 2. And also don't forget to include your questions in the Q&A box at any point throughout the session, and we can ask Jacinta them at the end of the presentation. I would like to now introduce you to the wonderfully talented Jacinta Hauser from 7 West Media. We're very much looking forward to hearing all about the tools for creating better workflows. So over to you.
Great, thanks, Amanda. I will jump right in. So my name's Jacinta Hauser. I work as the Creative Operations Manager at 7 West Media. And as mentioned, my presentation will run through tools for creating better creative workflows. So 7 West Media is one of Australia's most prominent media companies with a market-leading presence in content production across broadcast television, publishing, and digital. The company is home to some of Australia's most renowned media businesses, so you may be aware of the 7 Network and also its affiliate channels. There's the West Australian, Perth Now, and also more. So at 7 West Media, I work in the advertising department, and then within the advertising department sits the Mint team. So Mint is 7 West Media's in-house content studio that creates content to natively match the style and tone of the content platform on which it is published. So the main goal for native content advertising is to really match the form and function of the platform on which it appears. So it's about integrating the advertisement into the natural style of the website or the news platform. And its aim is to really engage with the audience by providing valuable, helpful, or entertaining content. So in the Mint team, we have 9 staff members. We have a creative director and production manager, a commercial product manager, campaign executive, and graphic designer. We then have the video team, so a video producer and video production coordinator. The writing team, so a senior content producer and a content producer. We also have casual staff that we may engage with to help with video or written content as required. And then there's myself, the Creative Operations Manager. As mentioned, in Mint, we create native content. So this is in the form of articles, video, Instagram posts, and immersives. So these are really native storytelling websites. You can kind of think of them maybe as like a digital magazine or an e-zine. We then amplify this content through social media, EDM, and the publication website. So we may need to create assets to accommodate for that. And then on occasion, we may create content that may not be native for either the publication website or for clients that we engage with. So the creative operations role, it's really about identifying inefficiencies within the team, figuring out where there are gaps and where there's room for improvement, so that we are able to produce better quality content more efficiently. It's really about freeing up space for the team to focus on the creative task at hand. So we kind of can ask, like, where do we start with this exactly? And one way that we can start is by identifying problems and solutions. So this presentation aims to run through some of the methodologies for this, and it specifically has creativity in mind with these chosen methodologies. So often we know there's a problem, but we really don't know how to identify the root cause or the tools available to try and solve it. So that's really what this presentation hopes to do. One that you've probably all heard of before is the Fivewise. It's a very simple methodology to use to define a problem. And this is best completed as a team. It's very simple. So you begin with a specific problem. So you ask, what is it that you are having an issue with? Then you ask why the problem happened, and you write down the answer below the specific problem you listed in step 1. And you keep asking why to each of the successive answers until you reach the root cause of the problem. So this might actually take more or less than 5 whys, but it's assumed that I think 5 whys is normally the average. And then it's important to make sure that your team sees eye to eye with each of the questions that you're answering, as well as the final root cause, as this is a collaborative methodology. Some advantages to the 5 whys are that it's not overly complex. It's very simple and easy to use. It's best used when you need to identify the root cause of a problem, and it helps to identify relationships between the causes of a problem. Some disadvantages are that there is a tendency to stop at the symptoms rather than the actual root cause. So how do you know that the last why is the final one? There is the tendency to identify a single root cause. However, each question could elicit multiple root causes. So as you could see, it was a very linear methodology, but in practice, it may not be so. And there's also the inability to go beyond the investigator's current knowledge. So you might actually reach the final why, not because it's the root cause, but because you don't know the answer to the next why. So those are just some considerations if you are using that process. Another handy one to know is the decision matrix. It's a really great way to make a decision on something relatively simple. And how it works is you identify different alternatives. So in this example, we have 3 different agencies that you might be tossing up which one to use. You then identify important considerations. So here we have cost, experience, communication, and customer reviews in the example. You then add a weight to each consideration, multiply the weighted score, and then calculate the total score, with the highest score being the decision that you arrive at. Some advantages to using the decision matrix are that it's best when you need to select the best option for different choices. It's to be used when you already know the options at hand and need to make a final decision. It also helps to approach the decision from a logical viewpoint instead of an emotional or intuitive one, as you've assigned numbers to each criteria. Some cons are that it's not helpful if you're unaware of the different alternatives on offer, or even which criteria are more important than the other. So this may need some investigating before you actually get to this stage. The values assigned to each option are also guesses and not based on any quantitative measurements. So you really just assign random numbers, so it's not entirely scientific. And also the list of criteria options are arbitrary. So it's likely that there may be some criteria missing, as you can't think of every single criteria to measure. So that's just something to take into consideration. Next, we have DMAIC. So DMAIC is part of what is known as Lean Six Sigma methodology. And Lean methodology is really about eliminating waste and optimizing flow. So you can really think of it in terms of lean foods. It's about reducing waste and adding value. And then Six Sigma is a goal where processes not only encounter less defects, but do so consistently. And this is a process that was founded by Motorola when they were in the production of mobile phones. So the first stage in this is about define. That's really understanding the problem, what's the process, the scope, the goal. Then you move on to measure. So gather reliable information to help make an informed decision about what's causing the problem. So how are you going to measure success? Then you move to analyze. That's about identifying the root cause by analyzing the data at hand. Then you move to improve. So fix the root cause through ideation, brainstorming, testing. And then control. So how can the improvements be sustained? And in this process, it involves documentation, monitoring, that sort of thing. So some pros to using DMAIC is that it's best used when the problem is complex or the risk is high. Its cyclical nature allows for continuous improvement, and it aims to analyze a process before implementation, which really reduces the chance of fixing the wrong issue. Some negatives are that it might not work as well for a one-size-fits-all approach. It doesn't leave too much room for innovation as it's a rigid process. And then it's also inconvenient for simple problems as it does take a lot of time to implement. And last but not least is PDCA. So that stands for Plan, Do, Check, Act. And this is also a lean methodology. So the plan stage is really about going through questions like, what are the objectives? How do we measure success? What are the deliverables? Who are the stakeholders? What is the timeline? And what are the constraints? The good thing with this process is that you don't need all the answers right now as you run the process again and again because it's a cycle. So you can come up with the rest of the answers at a later time. The next step is do. So this is where you try it out, maybe on a small scale first to test it. Then check, write a review to see how you went. Did you meet the things that you set out to in the plan? And then you move on to act, which is rolling out the process. A3 is really an extension of PDCA with a more structured planning part. So steps 1 to 5 is the planning part. Step 6 is do, 7 is check, and 8 is act. This, as you can probably tell, got its name from the A3 sheet of paper that it's usually worked on, and it is something to be done collaboratively as part of a team. Positives to this process, it's a method for continuous improvement. It encourages commitment to common goals and strengthens the level of responsibility. It fights the root cause, not only the symptoms, and it promotes mentoring and collaboration. Some cons are that it's not really great for a one-time process, and it's also not great if something is urgent as this process takes time to test. So once you've identified problems and solutions, you may want to look at some useful tips and tricks to lay down the foundations for implementing the solutions. And this is really evident in the way that your team communicates. So what I've highlighted next are really some tools for better communication. In my experience, having a team that's able to collaborate and communicate effectively really means that you're able to work through these problems and solutions a lot easier. And as noted, a lot of the problem identification methods involve team collaboration, so this is incredibly important. So this table breaks down different types of team communication, which can help us identify where we can potentially use tools to help us with this. For example, in the current environment with COVID, a lot of us are working from home, so we really need to rely on other things that don't involve the nonverbal cues. One example is project management software. So this is really invaluable. And the ones which I've highlighted here are some of the top project management softwares which have been known to apply specifically for creative times. So at 7 West Media in the Mint team, we use Asana, but I also have some experience using Monday.com. Even if your team is really small, there are free versions of these, as I know project management software can be quite costly at times, but it is really important just as a tool to make sure that everyone is on the same page and is across the status of a project. Another one is communication software, which I know we would probably already have implemented. This kind of gives you an idea of some of the different ones that are in market, some of the more popular types. Personally, we use Microsoft Teams, and it is also quite handy because it has a convenient integration with Asana. So you may want to look at how you can get the different communication software to talk to each other, just so you're not having to input the same information over and over again in multiple places. Some combinations work better for particular industries, but yeah, this just sort of gives you an idea of the different options available. And then once you have your software solutions, there's also just different tips that you can use to communicate more efficiently. So one of them is knowing exactly where to communicate. So is it a quick message or an email? Do you need multiple people CC'd? Do you need attachments? Knowing exactly the right place to communicate a certain thing is very important, can save time, and yeah, help you communicate more efficiently. Also making sure you're speaking to the right person. If you're not sure that you're speaking to the right person, sometimes it helps to have it down in writing so that when you do reach the right person, you just have to forward the message on. If you are stuck ringing around different people, you're having to repeat the same message over and over again, and hence wasting time. So definitely thinking about that could make communication more efficient. Also practicing honest and open communication, building rapport and team building. This just helps, particularly if you run into a problem. It's just a lot easier to solve if you have those practices already in place. Might also help to know the different communication styles of certain team members and play to their strengths. So if you know one person doesn't reply to emails quickly and you need a quick response, you should be trying another method. It doesn't really make sense to be contacting them via email. Another idea is solution-focused communication rather than problem-focused. So this is really context dependent, but sometimes it might help if you encounter a problem to put forward a solution at the same time. For example, I've noticed this particular issue. However, I think we can deal with it by doing X solution. What do you think? So this saves time and also shows your ability to problem solve. But again, it depends on the particular scenario. Also process documentation. So if you have a particular way of doing things, write it down with instructions. That way, if you're sick one day and someone else needs to pick up where you left off, it's quite seamless. In our team, we have pages and pages of processes, and it works wonders for if we need to cover someone when they're on leave. And I guess it's particularly important in today's world as well. People might be getting sick with COVID. You don't want that to be holding up production timelines. And last but not least, consistent communication. So our team do daily whips. We update the project management software at the end of every day. It doesn't have to be that frequent, but whatever it is, do it consistently so that people know what to expect. And this also helps you form a habit around it so you don't forget to communicate. So I know a lot of this stuff seems very intuitive, but having a particular process and guideline for this sort of thing has really done wonders for our team and our ability to produce content more efficiently. I know it's all a learning process and our work is never done. In the creative operations space, there's always something that can be improved. But these are really just some tools that have helped me create better creative workflows for our team. And I hope they work for your team too. Thank you.
Jacinta, that was great. Thank you so much. We can't thank you enough for your time today, presenting your valuable content. We do have questions to answer from the attendees. So starting with, what is the most common problem you encounter in a creative team, for creative operations team?
Most common problem. I guess the processes, all following the same process, that everyone has different ways of doing things. And yeah, sometimes I guess like the inefficiencies that come with that. So yeah, I guess it's definitely like a big thing about having documentation for that and making sure that we're all doing it the same way so that it's runs smoothly and efficiently.
Okay, thank you. So how do you drive that consistency throughout the business?
Definitely documentation. We've had a few instances where the business has actually come to our team to look at how we have run things. So we do, yeah, share our documentation and kind of, I guess, having like different sessions with different teams and figuring out their processes as well, and just brainstorming, figuring out the best way to approach things through that. So yeah.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Still on the topic of the tools, what methodology do you find yourself using the most?
Oh, I'd say probably we have been using more of the simple ones like the Fivewise or Plan, Do, Check, Act. Yeah, we haven't necessarily undergone anything quite large yet where we would do like DMAIC or anything like that yet. Yeah.
Okay. And what sort of tools and communication processes, this is a very interesting question from Claire Alston, what sort of tools and communication processes might you use for shared learnings?
I guess for shared learnings, just again, documentation. So we use SharePoint, which is accessible all across Seven West Media. So it's very easy just having to share a link to, yeah, different people throughout the business. I guess we use Asana as well for particular templates and things. Yeah, I'd say those are the main two.
The questions are coming in thick and fast, Jacinta, so I hope you've got some time.
Amazing. Yes, I do.
Yeah, good. So what are your top 5 best features, functions of using your project management software and allowing you to manage time, resource, and reporting better in Asana, I guess that's for?
Yeah. To be honest, we don't use too much of the time resource aspect. I guess very simple things like having the ability to assign certain tasks to people, due dates, also having the ability to link things within a specific task. So, you know, attaching documents or providing feedback, that sort of thing, are really important functionalities that we use. Also being able to categorize different things. I know that sounds incredibly simple, but at Seven West Media, we have different mastheads that we publish across. So yeah, there's the West Australian, Perth Now. So figuring out where it's going, who the client is, using like a lot of that kind of tagging functionality, what kind of content it is it a social video, is it an article, that sort of thing. Yeah, really helps us with our the flow of being able to manage those projects.
So that everything's in Asana in terms of, you know, timing plans, etc.
Everything's always in Asana. Yeah.
Okay.
Not in Asana, it didn't happen.
Fair enough. And in terms of resourcing and managing time, how do you do that? If you don't do it within Asana today, how do you do that? How do you manage that?
Yeah, so at the moment we do use more of like a Google Calendar where we can block out time. It's not the most efficient method, and we are looking into using something else in the future. but I guess that's kind of worked for us now.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's more just like color coding things, assigning
Sure.
things to different people, and measuring it out that way. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Do you see, Mandy Pang, this is a very good question. Do you see any difficulty having the creative talents following process? So, you know,
I would say that we have a really great team, and we're all, very friendly with each other and have a great culture. So I think that definitely helps us all kind of be on the same page. And I don't think we have encountered any issues with people following processes, but I think also we're quite lucky with our team dynamic. So I
yeah,
understand it can be a bit of a hard task at times. But yeah, I think that's why laying down the foundations for those sorts of things of understanding like the team communication styles, what works best for different people, how to approach it with different people, is really important. Because yeah, you might find that the way that you need to approach a process with one person might be different to the next person depending on their personality, their work style, that sort of thing. So
yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's important to keep all that in mind.
yeah, sure. You have to sort of keep it, give a personalized communication style to each different type of personality, I guess.
Yes, yeah.
So we're rapidly running out of time. I've got 3 more questions. I'll try and squeeze them all in. How many people in your team and how many active projects do you have in your pipeline at any given day?
Oh, so there's 9 people in the team with casual staff members as required. I guess it varies so much. We maybe publish a couple of articles a week. We work on the big immersive features. They take about like 6 weeks to 8 weeks. So we've had a steady flow of those. Also social videos every month or maybe, yeah, something like that. So yeah, we kind of just deal with the overflow, I suppose, by engaging those casual staff members. We're quite lucky that they kind of, are like freelancers basically. So
Yeah.
they sit in the background for when we might need them.
And do you use timesheets with them? If not, how do you manage resource without timesheets or time tracking?
Yeah, so we kind of follow a process that has been set out by the payroll department, which is, yeah, just timesheet tracking. But they're also working at integrating it in a way that we cut out kind of the middleman. So at the moment, we do a lot of the timesheets, but in future, I think it'll be something between payroll and the casual staff, so cutting out our team.
Sure. Yeah, that's more efficient. Yeah. I think I've got time. And this is kind of a constantly asked question. I'm not sure one I have the answer to, so I'll ask you from Anjali Tin. How do you get the buy-in from various departments and functions? Because obviously some people have a challenge moving from what they do today, you know, their Excel templates or whatever they're using. How do you get that buy-in?
I think definitely providing like a use case, being able to display exactly why this new process is better, why they should be implementing it.
Yeah, excellent. And finally, what other project management tools did you look at before arriving at Asana?
Well, I actually joined the team when they already had Asana.
Fair enough.
Yes, but I have used Monday.com in my old job. And yeah, I've been talking to a few different friends that are in the industry, just seeing what they use. So I've seen a bit of Streamtime, Adobe Workfront as well. So they all seem quite good from my knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to keep the community going in events like this so that we can all share our tips and tricks and how we're doing things to make it more efficient. Thank you so much, Jacinta. Please feel free, obviously, to reach out to your fellow presenters and anybody in the audience who would like to get in touch. And thanks again for your time.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Now we do have a final session, so stay on track 1 and join the next session in track 1 to learn about supercharging visual workflows in the new reality of content creation. That's with Amazon Web Services, or track 2 for design operations, simple steps to getting started with Canva. See you very soon. Thanks again, Jacinta. Bye-bye.
Thank you.